Everybody ready? I'd like to welcome everyone to the Elizabethton City Schools March Board of Education meeting. I would like to thank our lovely seat crew for working hard and very effectively getting those chairs out. I think you probably do that at your churches, I'm guessing. You do the chair crew. If everybody would please stand, and we're going to have a moment of silence and pledge the flag.
Okay, let's have our moment of silence. Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it is awfully nice to see all of your faces out there, and it's great to have so many students here. So I'm just going to turn it over to Dr. Gardenauer and let him start recognizing everybody.
Okay, the first opportunity we have is to have Taylor and Abby come and talk about Like a Girl.
Hi, my name's Taylor Long, and this
I'm
is
Markley.
Okay. We're cousins, and McKenna Kaiser and I started Like a Girl at the beginning of the semester for the Bartleby XQ Community Improvement class. We both knew that we kind of wanted to start something that involved just reaching out to girls and starting a we weren't completely sure, to be honest. We just wanted to help girls, and we didn't really know how. So we kind of wanted to create a mentorship type of relationship and explore that. So my mom helped me meet with the counselor at Westside Elementary School, and she said that the best age group to choose was kind of the beginning of puberty, because statistics showed that confidence levels and self-esteem levels just began to plummet in about 6th and 7th grade. So we decided to start there. We met with a couple different people to get some different ideas, maybe even choose a program to use, but we decided to kind of create our own and get a little creative with it. 6th grade we thought would be kind of the grade that we targeted, because 6th grade's really tough. You're moving from elementary school onto the middle school, and that's a really big transition. 8th grade is kind of like your top dog, but you also have a lot of anxieties because you're moving on to the high school, and that's a big change too. And 7th grade comes with its own hardships. We kind of have 5 different goals for the girls. We want to create a safe place where they feel like there's no judgment. We want them to be confident enough to take on leadership roles, which I know was something that McKenna, me, and Abby were all not confident to do in middle school. We want there to be support within the group so that they feel like they're creating a more positive atmosphere at the middle school. We want to teach them important skills like communication skills and even critical thinking skills. We also, above all, we want to create a place where there's nothing but encouragement within the group, because in the middle school or in the workplace or anywhere, there's always going to be somebody tearing you down, and we want it to just be building each other up constantly. So Abby's going to tell you some activities kind of that we've done this semester to give you some examples of some stuff we do.
So we do a lot of group discussions. Some topics we've covered are peer pressure, healthy relationships, and mental and physical health. And we've also done a hip-hop Tabata exercise class as well as yoga. And we obviously want the girls to be safe, so we've actually done a self-defense class. It was 2 parts. The first part, we had 2 certified police officers come in and talk to the girls about how to be safe and how to watch for people who might be predators and how to just stay safe in general. And then the second part, the same police officers came back and helped us and our girls learn about certain defense skills that we could actually use if fighting is something we need to do. We do tons and tons of different activities, and they're all fun and educational. We really wanted this club to be a place where the girls could belong and see that they all struggle with very similar things, and where they could build friendships and, like Taylor said, encourage each other, and I think we're doing that.
That's all we have.
Thank you. And would all the girls please come on up? We want to get your picture. And Miss Reeves, maybe? Great job.
I just want to say something. Becca and I were asked to come and speak to the girls one day. We got to come together, and it's one of my favorite things I have done this whole year. The girls were attentive. They asked really great questions, and I have a purple shirt just like the one you're wearing, and I love my shirt. So you're never too old to be like a girl. So I was very impressed with what you're doing.
Okay. Coach Pennell and Coach Murrow.
So tonight we wanted to recognize the wrestling team, and in particular some of the medalists from the state tournament. Deuce Morton, state champion. Go ahead and stand up. Come on up. Yeah, come on up. So Deuce is our first state champion in 19 years. The last one was Justin Fair in 2001. So that's a great thing to have in the high school, and it definitely brings up our team a lot. We also have a second place from Hunter Morrell. And Hunter is a great kid to have in the wrestling room. He's one of our captains, so we definitely look on him to help lead the room.
Okay. Also state runner-up this year, and not with us this evening, unfortunately, is Taisha Thomas in the women's 125-pound category. In the 182-pound weight class, we had Mr. Chris Taylor placing third this year. Chris is one of our graduating seniors, and from the time he stepped on the mat in junior high up until his last match, Chris has shown integrity, honesty, leadership, and friendliness toward everyone that he's wrestled, both friend and foe. He's been a wonderful role model, and we've been really glad to have him. Thank you so much for all you've contributed, Chris. At 138 pounds, placing sixth was Mr. Andrew Fontanez. Andrew is a junior and has exemplified the hard work that we try to teach in the wrestling room. And at 285 pounds this year, placing fifth, is Joseph Kechter. Joseph is also a junior and has assumed quite a leadership role within our team. Would the rest of you please come up with your teammates? And there's a reason that we all stand in unity, because without all of us, not one of us would have made it to where we are today. You know, this is, without a doubt, the closest group of athletes that I've had the pleasure to coach. They go through thick and thin together. They tear each other down. They build each other up. They've managed to do that with carrying a grade point of combined 3.15 during the wrestling season. And wrestling is a tough sport. You know, these kids are losing weight, they're conditioning like mad, they're doing things that most normal people would look at you and laugh as they run away from you, and they do it every single day. and we're just as proud as we can be. As a team, your Elizabethton Cyclones are the number 8 team in the state out of 57 AAA teams. So they've done a wonderful job. And not only do we have the state placers to celebrate, but we have 12 wrestlers on our team that place in the top 20 in their weight classes according to rankwrestlers.com. So they've done a wonderful job. They work hard, and we love them. Your Elizabethton Cyclones.
Get the medals up front.
Hunter, you're standing in the back.
Back row, can you guys take a step back like this right here? There we go. Very good. 1, 2, 3.
And we, just make sure, and Becca, we did not miss anybody, correct? We did not miss anybody. Okay, I'm just making sure.
Everybody's welcome to stay, but any students that want to leave, now's your time.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm keeping you for the rest of the meeting,
Okay.
and you'll love it. All right, it is time for citizens speak in accordance with Board Policy 1.404. We had Susan Murray Alcantar who asked to come tonight to speak, so if she's here, come on up. And if you don't mind, just give us your name and your address, please.
Susan Alcantar. My address is 610 South Watauga Avenue, Elizabethton.
Thank you.
I just wanted to come and speak, I guess, on behalf of the Spanish kids that I subbed for at the high school. They've had a tough year. They lost 2 teachers. They've been through many subs, myself included. And now to be separated amongst the other 2 Spanish teachers and then a French teacher who obviously did not ask to have to teach Spanish because she doesn't speak Spanish. And I feel like, the kids aren't going to be able to learn from her. They've been told, well, you should be happy because you have a foreign language teacher. But you can't be happy with a French teacher when you're taking Spanish. And their grades have fluctuated. Actually, I had a class that was told by Miss Nelson because they were worried about their grades because they were pretty much failing. And she informed them that whatever grades I gave them while I was there would go into Skyward. They took quizzes and everything. They studied hard. Some of the ones that I actually thought would fail the quiz blew my mind. They passed with flying colors. And, some of those grades, well, I think the French teacher put in 1 quiz grade. I've kept in touch with, the kids to check on their grades and stuff, and some of them are doing pretty good, but others are still failing. And I found out that their grades did not go in by one of the Spanish teachers who informed them that she wouldn't give them the grade because it came from a sub. And, I get the whole concept that I'm just a sub, But, you know, those kids were told that they would get those grades. And I feel like that the situation that they've been put in by being split up and then, of course, being taught by French teachers was not a good idea. But, you know, who am I? I'm just a sub. You know, I hear that all the time. But I don't have to sub. I mean, because, you know, of course, the pay is not good. I do it for the kids. I love kids. I have 4 of my own. And 2 of them, I have 1 at the high school and 2 that will be coming up into the high school in the next couple of years. And I wouldn't want my child to have to go through this. You know, I know their parents called and complained and wanted to know what was going on. And, you know, they had that right because their child was, failing a Spanish class. And do you or do you not have to have a foreign language to graduate? Right? You do? Well, some of these, and I don't know the ones that are still failing, how y'all plan on doing that, because it's not their fault that they're failing, that they didn't have a teacher. So that's just what I'm concerned about. So.
Thanks.
Okay. It is time to approve the consent and regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments about the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, item on the floor is to approve the consent and regular agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Gardenauer?
Okay. I wanted to thank those of you who were able to make it to our soccer locker opening today.
So that's just fun to say.
It was very fun to be at. The kids took us through what they had done during their project to complete that money they'd raised, and we had a lot of people from the community, which we enjoyed that, and it was fantastic. I wanted to say that we will be working with International Paper more as we're over in Stony Creek. We're trying to form a partnership. We're looking at working with them throughout the process that has gone on at Gestamp, which is a employer that mainly manufactures parts for Volkswagen. And so we want to use that model. So we're looking at their legal issues, you know, how their contracts, those types of things in order to do that. So more to come on that very, very soon. I'd like to thank Maggie and Alex for their work working with Ballot Health on their COPA and working on what they're going to be doing, you know, in response to that coming up. So they have worked very hard, and I think that we have 5 major projects, including the fact that they're going to form, starting with our students, a teen board that's going to help inform some of the things that we're doing. And so we thank you for working on that. We had a career pop, and Maggie Donnellan worked very hard on that. We had a team, and she led that with her partnerships work through our XQ grant, and it really is going to be excellent for students. They'll have opportunities to look at what's out there in the world of work, and those folks are going to be working with our people locally and working with people all across the Tri-Cities to try to have opportunities to see job shadowing, those types of things, internships and so forth. We had a great conversation with XQ, Mr. Boatman and several other ones that were involved in that. They really are impressed with what our schools are doing and how we're handling ourselves. We're leading, and that's evident through the conversation, and they've indicated they'd like to be long-term partners with us and get through the work with changing high school. Dr. Newman has been working with the State Department, kind of in concert, on doing curriculum walkthroughs, looking at ELA right now. But she has been leading those and also taking our principals and looking at different classrooms within the school system to find some trends. And mainly it's to help our students overall, but then help our teachers with PD that they need in order to improve. And they had a debrief session after spending several hours in the classroom looking at what teaching is going on. We know that we have to work on ELA. That's one of our major areas that we need to improve, and so we're trying to do that, and part of that is helping our teachers have the right professional development to do so. I want to thank Danny for having his training the other day at TCAT. That was part of he and Lottie Ryan's. Did an excellent job on dual credit, dual enrollment, and in essence pathways, and looked at some of the pathways that we will be building with TCAT over a period of time, and opportunities for our students there, so that was very informative. Becca has published the annual report that you have in front of you. Goes over lots of different things. We shortened it a little bit, partially because we felt we looked at some other school systems, and Becca found some good templates and felt that this was able to really give a good snapshot of what we have, and I appreciate all of her hard work getting that together. I know our teachers are very interested in a possible raise, and we know right now we had our budget workshop, and we're looking at a 1.5% with the possibility, once we get our BEP estimates, of possibly some more on that. But we know that we'll be able to give a raise based on what the governor is currently doing for us. We're still working with the city on our SRO program. We anticipate possibly being able to get funding from the state for that, and we're very, very hopeful. And Chief Shaw has a skip in his step. He's happy that it's funded for this coming year, and we'll be moving forward with that. I want to thank Becca as well for making our new mobile app for parents, and so that'll be there for everybody. She's worked very hard. We looked at some other companies, and she said, well, I can do that on my own. Just give me the opportunities. I think I can make that work. And so she has created that, shared that with us for the first time today, and it really looks great. We're going to be improving that. Our goal is when parents go to use the app that they're one click away from the information that they need. And so you can get on and download that. It's on the App Store right now under Elizabethton, and you can go and take a look at that. I think you'll be impressed with what she's done. We are looking at and had a meeting this past week on trauma-informed care, and we have already worked on mental health first aid, but now we're moving to trauma-informed care, and we're going to make sure that we are a trauma-informed care region. So Ballard is leading that effort, and they will pay for our training and that type of thing, so it'll be free of charge, and Mr. Hutchins is working on that. Maybe when we come back, he took care of that today, so maybe when we come back from spring break, we'll have some more information to share with teachers coming up on the training for that. And the last thing I have is Jan Broom, if you want to come up and talk with us a little bit about Operation Gratitude.
Hey, I'm Jan Broom. I'm with Pizza Inn, and Pizza Inn is partnering with Operation Gratitude all of 2019. And I was wanting your approval to involve the city schools, the elementary schools, in writing letters. What Operation Gratitude is doing is they are sending thank you boxes to every enlisted person across, as many as they can. And what they're doing, what we're doing, is we are accepting donations every month from customers for different things that Operation Gratitude has asked for. But in, let's see, July and September, I would like to enlist the help of the elementary schools in writing letters and just saying thank you. And then I thought about, we want to do paracord bracelets, which Pizza Inn will buy the paracords and the little clasps. And I was thinking maybe we could contact the history. I don't know who to contact on who might be interested in that, but I was thinking the history class because I just think it relates there. But to do the paracord bracelets, and it's nothing, it takes probably 4 or 5 minutes to make one bracelet, and I just would like to donate, you know, us to see how many we can make and to donate them, and it's all about giving back to the men and women, and they also give to our emergency responders. And Pizza Inn's hoping that we can request for every responder in Elizabethton to get a box. So that's on down the road, but I just wanted to inform y'all of what we're doing and get an approval to reach out to the schools.
What a great project.
Yeah.
Wow.
Approved. We'll try to work with you.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, let's go to the regular agenda. I have somewhere to put my little ruler thing. All right. First item is approved textbook adoptions beginning 2019-2020 academic year for a 5-year cycle in the areas of social studies, world languages, marketing, finance, business management, and administration. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second. Okay, this basically, if you look at item 12 in your packet, you'll see what we've adopted now. We do have to adopt. It doesn't mean that we have to purchase, but we do have to adopt. We have asked for waivers based on some of the things that teachers have wanted. And thank you, Dr. Newman, for working on this, and Mr. Wampler.
Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, item on the floor, approved textbook adoptions beginning 2019-2020 academic year for a 5-year cycle in the areas of social studies, world languages, marketing, finance, business management, and administration. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next item, approve agreement between Interquest Detection Canines and Elizabethton City Schools for the period beginning August 2019 through August 2020 at a rate of $300 each for 10 half-day scheduled visits. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay, the Interquest Canine Agreement gives us the opportunity to have trained dogs search our schools about every month. They come on a random basis and tries to help us keep a tab on those issues that we have. We've been very happy with them. They are very responsive. They come and their goal is to try to keep drugs out of schools. So this is along with, in concert with, our city police and with county sheriff's office. We also have help from them, but this gives us an every month situation.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Question for our student liaison. What's your perception of our drugs in the schools right now?
Honestly, I really don't. I used to see more of it than I do now, but now, I mean, rarely do I ever hear of it being a problem. But in the past, it's been worse than it is right now.
What's the perception of the dogs, the Interquest service?
No
From
one.
the students.
Well, from the students, no one really has a strong opinion against the dogs or anything like that. And where there's not been a blow up or, a lot of drama regarding drugs within the school, there really hasn't been a lot of comments about it that I've heard.
Do you make you feel safer?
Yeah, they do.
Or less safe?
Seeing, hearing your all's positive comments about it and that of the community, it does make me feel safer. But I haven't heard comments, disregarding them in a negative way or anything like that.
I just wanted your opinion. That's why you're here. So we can get your perspective.
Exactly.
Is it basically just one school? Will they do middle and high
They
school?
do middle and high school.
Okay.
During one, they'll come up the same day.
Time-wise.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was curious for the student perspective.
That's the joy of having Melena sitting right there, is we don't have to guess. We get to ask.
We can ask.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Item on the floor, approve agreement between Interquest Detection Canines and Elizabethton City Schools for a period beginning August 2019 through May 2020 at a rate of $300 each for 10 half-day scheduled visits. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, approve proposal from Snyder Signs in the amount of $13,691.16 for the manufacture and installation of a sign to be placed on the LaPorte Family Sports Complex, lovingly known as the Old Hospital property. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. And have a second?
Second.
This is a sign to go at our new practice area for soccer and Little League football, and in our joint venture with Boys and Girls Club, Soccer Association, and the city schools. This is just a sign to really mark that as a property of ours, and also thank the people that have been so generous to us in helping us move these projects forward.
The property looks really nice right now.
We had the best winter possible to grow grass. It
Lots
hasn't
of
been-
water.
Lots of water, hasn't been very cold. It's been great.
Well, I'm glad all the rain served a
Yeah.
really good purpose.
Yes, it did.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, item on the floor, approve proposal from Snyder Signs in the amount of $13,691.16 for the manufacture and installation of a sign to be placed on the LaPorte Family Sports Complex. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, approve first reading of Board Policy 1.803, tobacco-free schools as revised. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, you'll kind of notice item 15 in your packet. We're going through, looking at it. You'll see some of the language that's been taken out, and some of that has been added. This helps us with vaping, and the other part is battery-operated devices. That's become very popular, and it's something that we need to have in our policy there. And pretty self-explanatory.
I'm okay with this one. The only thing that I had an issue with is electronic/battery operated devices. It's very vague because that could be your phone. I mean, they mean in response to tobacco
Right.
or vaping, but I think that this was a TSBA edit, and I think they were
You
thinking
think
it was
because it
obvious.
starts with all use of tobacco, and then it starts with electronic
I think we know what it's
battery-operated?
talking about. It's just,
Do we need to clarify any language?
no, I don't think we do. I'm just saying, I'm surprised. TSBA is usually very specific, and they had electronic cigarettes, which was changed to make it more clear, so they just said battery operated devices, like the Juul thing or whatever those
Right.
things are nowadays that everybody's using, but,
I think the minute we get a policy in place, they add something.
yeah, they
new.
change it, but they'll keep updating. I don't think it's gonna be a problem because it falls under the subject matter and the descriptor term, tobacco-free schools. I think it's very clear what it's referencing.
It
It's
is a
just,
interesting comment.
they're normally very good to not leave such a broad word there, but it says all other, so that gets you. It just surprised me from TSBA.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys have any questions or comments? We've come a long way since I was a freshman in high school and we had a
Yeah.
smoking area.
Yeah.
That is a vaping area.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right. Item on the floor, approve first reading of Board Policy 1.803, tobacco-free schools as revised. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next item, approve first reading of Board Policy 4.209, alternative credit options. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a brand-new policy for us to look at, but it's come into view because of what's happening really online. And you'll notice that there are some conditions for online courses that we would have to start out with 1 through 4, some of them being the course is not offered at the high school. Although the course is offered at the high school, the student is an unavoidable scheduling conflict, and it goes down through those. And then it says that there's express approval from the principal in order to be able to do this. Also, when you look down at next part, course access program, it talks a little bit more about that, but they have to meet all prerequisite requirements and be unable to enroll in a comparable course with a student school because a comparable course isn't offered, or a legitimate situation exists that prevents a student from enrolling in the comparable course. And then accompanying that is the director of schools making an administrative procedure as how it's going to happen, how you're going to deny the course if it's not offered, and it gives pretty explicit instructions on what we need to do. And then appeals for the board, other than me, for the board, all appeals shall be submitted in writing to the board within 7 days of the denial. If you look at the following page, they can, and then it says the board will provide written notification to the student and parent at the time and place and date of the hearing. The hearing shall be held no later than 10 days after the appeal is submitted. After the hearing, the board shall determine whether there is an error in denying the student the ability to participate in the course access program. So it's brand new. I don't know if you all want to think about this some, or if you're ready to approve it. We probably do need to get something in place in the next couple months, at least for the start of next school year, because we are facing some of that now.
So on the 10-day, who are the hearing officers? Is it the entire board?
Well, when you look if you look back at the director of schools shall develop administrative procedures to ensure that students, parents, guardians are given written notice of the appeal. So that happens, and then the appeal shall be submitted in writing to the board. I think in that case it would be, we've exhausted everything on my side. The principal has done his job. They've possibly denied it. I've looked at it. They followed the procedure, and they have been notified in a timely manner, and then the appeal would come to the board, and I think it would be the board as a whole. I don't see anything talking about designees or people that should do it.
Are we okay on the public notice since this isn't a meeting and that sort of thing? Is that it would have to be a public hearing? I mean, we can't meet behind closed doors on it.
Depending on the time of month, we may have to do a called meeting.
So
for something like that.
I'm okay with the called meeting and the time. I guess I'm just wondering, I thought we had to give a notice of at least, it had to be published. Is that only meetings, or is this a hearing? Can it be different?
Well, if you,
we would, within that 10-day period, we would be setting a date for the hearing that would be agreed on.
And when,
We would have ample notice.
It says the hearing shall be held no later than 10 days.
when we've had disciplinary hearings, we
Yeah.
basically set a date
Okay.
with them, invite them. Now, it's different because in that case, the board appoints people to be
That
the
was my
disciplinary hearing
question,
authority.
right.
In this case, it would have to be the board. So are you saying you feel that we need to increase the number of days?
I just think we need to make sure we're within the law for the notice provisions that we have in our other policies. And as long as because this is a hearing, it's not a agenda item like this regular board meeting. It's a special function. It may be already there. I'm just not comfortable enough without researching it. But perhaps if Ms. Owen looks at it and says you're within the law to give a 10-day notice,
Okay.
if both parties, right. And if it's the same as when we have a disciplinary hearing, then I think we're consistent, but to your point, that's an appointed committee.
Yeah.
I just don't want us to run afoul of you have to give notice and public notice whenever the board meets to pass an action. Staying off the legalities of it. As long as it's legal, I'm good with it. I just was not sure what our notice provision was for sunshine law access.
Okay, then what we'll do is, I'd be very happy to send this on to Ms. Owen tomorrow and send back to the board.
So I would amend the motion that was made, that if she approves it, it's approved on first reading.
Okay.
This, today, if she approves it the way it's written, then my amendment would be that I guess what I'm saying is we've made a motion and second to approve it on first reading, and we haven't had a vote yet. So I'm amending the motion to say with the provision that our legal counsel confers that we can actually do that.
Okay. What do you think is a reasonable number of days?
I think 10 is reasonable as
10.
long as she says
All right.
that's legal. I'm only concerned about the legal notice provision and then our other policies. If she'll just look at it and tell us that we're not violating our own policy or the state law on Sunshine Act notice provisions for public notice.
Okay.
Article now, this is a minor, FERPA laws and stuff. Is it open to the public? I mean, we're dealing with sensitive information with the minor. I don't know that.
That's something else we need to check, because in this case, it looks like it is open. It would be something we need to check that.
I mean, yeah, those are the questions I'd want to know before I approved it on first reading.
So we have to amend the motion for legal counsel's approval just on the whole thing? Or
10 days
the
open.
10
days,
days.
everything. I mean, just look at it, and if it.
How about I just say are you guys comfortable if we just say that we're going to amend the motion or legal counsel's approval, and just let them kind of look at the whole thing and check?
But you have to second that
FERPA
amendment.
And just kind of the whole.
You have
the
to
whole
second
thing, or
that
you want
amendment and vote on it.
just the one thing?
Hmm?
Let's just table it till next. I'll make a motion we table it till next meeting and get all the answers, and then we can approve it
Okay,
then.
I'll second that one.
Okay, so we have a table, we've got a motion and a second, so we will table that one till next month?
Okay.
Yes. Everybody in favor?
Need everybody, all those in favor, please say aye of tabling.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? That one's tabled. All right. Good eyes. All right. Next item, approve first reading of Board Policy 4.603, promotion and retention. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, basically they're putting a date on there when we need to identify the student by February 1st. And then they have some, the factors used. And so they've added some of those throughout. If you're looking at results of local assessment, screening, and monitoring tools, the likelihood of success, their attendance, social emotional maturity, and they have to be identified by the deadline if the delay, and students may be identified for retention after February if they follow the following. Let's say that we have a student that moves in late in the year. So if we have their date of enrollment, that would be a consideration that we would have. And then obviously additional tests after that. We could have a brand new student that we need to look at. And then finally on the next page, when you're looking at that, there's a K-3 notification. If it determines their overall performance on state and local assessments, K through 3 is not meeting grade level standards, then we're responsible to make a determination, and they shall be notified, the parents, within 15 calendar days of that determination. Now, this is interesting. This is something that's, if you look at number 4 under the retention part, it says the modification of the student's classroom assignment to ensure that the student receives instruction, a teacher will have an overall effectiveness rating of a level 4 or level 5. So that student goes back into a level 4 or 5 classroom for the following year.
Anybody have any questions or comments on this one? All right, hearing none. Item on the floor, approve first reading of Board Policy 4.603, promotion and retention. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve creation of one EHS boys soccer coach position for spring 2019 season. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. And I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. This particular position, I don't know if you saw that, if you were there today, our program has exploded with numbers, and we really need some help there. So we're asking for a position so we can help that program. It's a great problem to have, and we want students involved and active.
Have any questions or comments?
Is the position going to be determined on that as a continued basis? Is it, let's say that it hits a downturn? Because there's some cyclical action there, or is it going to remain in place?
I think that we would have to adjust it. I mean, I think if we saw a lot of numbers where, you know, we had half the number of kids, and you know, we've been looking at all of our supplements as far as football and what we have overall, period, and looking at that and then saying, you know, that you look at football and you have 3 games a week. You know, you have a lot of staff there. You have, but this
I don't
one,
anticipate it. I mean, I don't anticipate it will drop to the point, but I just know. I know there's been some adjustment over the years. But that's kind of left up to. That'd just come back up here, I guess, if it needed to be fixed or whatever, or there was an assumption that it needed to be.
That's right.
Are the girls equal? I mean, I have to kind of ask that. So do they have the same number in there already, or are we adding one there too for next fall?
it would be, since they are opposite seasons, we could hire someone to help us
with both. So
and
okay.
and you know,
That's
we're
good.
looking at a double supplement. But,
Gotcha. Well, if it's
they'll do
necessary.
a double.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, item on the floor, approve creation of one EHS boys soccer coach position for the 2019 spring season. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, ratify approval of one TPO roof system at ECS Central Office, low roof for a cost of $40,600 to be paid from the funds in budget category 141-76100-707-60002. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. If you've been around the central office for any length of time, you know that we have had issues, but recently we had an evaluation done on the roof because we had some serious leaks, and so we found a company that had agreed to come. We've invited 5 other companies to come and bid. 4 refused, and 1 gave us. Actually, we had, of the 5, we had 1 that was this price, and we had 1 that was $165,000 for the same job. So we feel very fortunate that we can get it repaired. And I don't know how much we've spent in repairs. Beth could probably tell us, but it's been a lot. Trying to keep our patch it as long as we could patch it, but we have huge areas where it's gaining and collecting water, and the issue is it's just going to give way. And so they should start any day now. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to work through that and ratify this.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right. Item on the floor, ratify approval of new TPO roof system at the EHS Central Office, low roof for a cost of $40,600. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And the last item is on a separate page, and it is discussion of the Milligan College dual enrollment class at Elizabethton High School beginning 2019-2020 academic year. So let's discuss.
Okay, I request this be on the agenda because there's several issues that I have with this. So first of all, let me say, Ms. Brewer, I know you're work for Milligan. I love Milligan. My wife and I both are products of Milligan. We both got our teaching degree there. I already have a daughter who's a freshman who wants to go there. So as a principal, when I was hiring teachers, a Milligan graduate had a plus because I thought they just did a better job than our other schools of preparing teachers. So let me just don't think that's an attack on Milligan on this. And second, it's not an attack on Bartleby, because project-based learning is how I make my living. So I'm all for that. But there's several concerns that I have with making a dual enrollment class mandatory for all seniors. First of all, we're adding, by doing this and adding the Cyclone experience, we're adding 2 requirements for graduation. If you don't remember, Mr. Pless and I went through 3 years of being put on the target list back in 2011 by the state because we failed to meet graduation requirements. I think adding 2 more courses required is flirting with danger there because there's a lot of students who need those extra periods to make up classes they failed or to get the required requirements for graduation. That's the first problem that I see. Number 2, is this an elective course, I'm assuming? Yes. Okay. If you're going to Milligan, I have no problem with that. Like I said, my daughter, I would encourage her to take it because of the cost of Milligan. Some programs do not require elective courses, several that I've looked into. I think it takes away from elective courses that students may want to take, that may not want to take this. So if they're interested in becoming a nurse or becoming a police officer, then they're forced to take this elective, which takes them away from a class that they could learn what their career may be. And I don't agree with that. Third, my son is one of these. I feel like you're kind of punishing the band students because band and music takes up a lot of electives. It's 8 credits for a band student if he stays all 4 years in the band. And like my son, who loves music, he also is trying to take course as well. And they're very short with band, and then also he was not a great math student, so he took algebra all year as a freshman, which that's another elective that he chose to make sure he got that foundation, because it's proven that if a student freshman fails algebra, they probably will not get the required 4 credits and they need in math and will not graduate high school. And that was one of the biggest reasons that I chose when I was principal to go to the block schedule, because we were having students fail algebra that never went on and graduated, and by going to the block schedule, it gave them an opportunity to retake in the first semester, then move on and take algebra or geometry, I think is what the sophomore in the second semester. So they're able to get caught up. So if you have a student who's not strong in math, he's already losing 1 elective, and then if he's a band member, he's losing several others right there, much less if he wants to take course or some other something he's interested in. Patrick wants to be something in law enforcement, so he has taken his program of study is criminal justice. He has an opportunity to do an internship next year as a senior. If he's forced to take this, it will knock him out of that, or he will have to choose another elective. So he has no interest in going to Milligan. He wants to go somewhere to do something in criminal justice. It's a shame that he will not be able to explore those options because he's forced to take an elective dual enrollment that he'll never use. And again, not just there, but students who are not going to college, and you know with Governor Lee's big push is trying to push some of these skills down to the high school where they can graduate high school and go into the workforce. Again, you're taking an elective away that may help them secure a job if they do not want to go to college, or if they want to go to TCAP. We do not require any type of elective, so if we work with our dual enrollment, get dual credit, you're knocking him or her out of time that could be dual credit or dual enrollment at TCAP, which would shorten their time to move out into the workforce, just for an example. Another issue is what about Northeast State and ETSU? We've had dual enrollment classes in Northeast State forever, and ETSU. Again, I'm not opposed to doing it with Milligan, but are we going to require them to take a class from Northeast State or ETSU as well? Where do we stop there? Also, who's going to pay for this? I think in the request, we've requested $35,000 to be paid by the school system for a class that many seniors do not need or do not want to take. We're looking for money anywhere we can. $35,000 is about will fund SRO. And I remember back in October when we were discussing, Dr. May, I think you asked what our obligations were to execute. There was no mention of money. And now here's $35,000 that we're going to take care of for the next 2 years for sure, a total of $70,000. So I think there's a lot of things on that list that we can use that money for instead of requiring students to take classes that they may not want to take or they do not need. And again, if they want to take it, Milligan, I think they will work with the dual enrollment credit grant that they get. That gives them that opportunity. I think to make it an option is fine, but to make it a requirement, not every kid is going to college and they do not need that class, and I think it is a waste for them. I've been involved planning my son's schedule since he was a freshman, and you can see there's very room for electives with what all he's taking. And I would hate for him not to be able to take something that he wanted to do because we think it's mandatory he takes a class that he won't use.
Can you refresh us a little bit on the background? So, because I hear what you're saying, but I kind of want to know the background on the other.
First of all, I think part of what we've been trying to do is look at overall opportunities for our students. As you kind of know, in Carter County, you work with the same data I do. We have very few kids that have college or any type of post-secondary on their resume.
Mm-hmm.
Very few. So we also know that we're going to be required to increase over a period of time the number of episodes we have for students. And
Say what EPSO is.
it's just a
Early post-secondary opportunity.
Yeah, early post-secondary opportunity. So the EPSO that are there and the opportunities that we're going to have for our students, it comes down to a couple things. We know that when students are entering the workforce, that they're going to need they need soft skills, they need success skills, and I think you've heard that as much as I have. This is one of our ways to kind of meet that metric. And in October, the board passed that we would offer this as a part of the agreement with Executed to be able to get the money.
Offer, not mandatory.
So when we talked about that for many months prior to that board meeting about what we were doing with Milligan, we were working for almost a year working on that because there was a lag in the time from in May when they came on board and said, we're going to fund you for a number of years, and the actual agreement, because we had to go through a lot of attorney stuff, getting through, making sure the agreement was sound. So the other part of that is that we know that there's a lot of change going on in the country right now as far as what's going to be required and what's going to happen in college, period. Not just college, it will be other schools as well. They're going to be looking more at a portfolio. Students in service, what they're doing, their grades, writing, those types of things. And this course was an opportunity for us to be able to really cap off those things and make sure that they had success skills and they had a good portfolio that when they went out, they could compete with other kids for scholarships. So we have certain kids we knew, and in our discussions in our master schedule meeting, if Josh will correct me, one of the things we said was we needed to have those success skills, we needed to teach those in their senior year, get the portfolio taken care of, and also make sure that we had really a pathway for them during that time. The other thing I'd say is that during that time, we knew that there would be some students that we would, even though we were going to get as many students in there as we could, we knew that there would be some students in that conversation. I asked the counselors, how many kids are we talking about that we feel would be in trouble? You know, let's say that they're not able to graduate, and that's something that you've put. Obviously, we want our kids to be able to graduate. That's one of our other performance metrics. That was something that we left the meeting at that point saying, yeah, we understand that. We also understand that there's certain populations, and you know what I'm talking about, of students that this would not be appropriate for. So that was a part of the conversation. But I think that we have to, in looking at, I've heard your argument on it, but I think that that's something that we need to push forward. We have about 18, maybe % in Carter County. We could increase that to around 90%. And what's that do for a child walking out of Elizabethton High School? If you're going straight to the workforce, and let's say that we have somewhere a true honest number, maybe 50%, and they have some college or something on their transcript that shines, that's going to put them ahead of the pack. And so we felt that that was an opportunity we would do. I think in the end, in the near future, we may not be paying for more episodes. This would be one that we would invest. My other thing would be, as time went on, this is something, as if it was successful in the first year, we would ask XQ to help us with financially. This was seed money to really get it started and move that forward. And so we had to show success before we could ask them to say, yeah, this is something good that you can invest in for us. So obviously there's some other things we'll look at. I think listen to your concerns.
Well, we've got to do something, because the registration form has already been passed out that says it is required. This is my son's registration form. It talks about somewhere, we can get to it, Milligan dual enrollment course required. I don't think we or you have the right to tell a student they can't explore other opportunities and electives, and they have to take a class through Milligan College. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the board's decision. I don't think that's your decision. And I understand what you're saying, because I deal with post-secondary. And yes, they are looking at EPSOs, but right now there's several ways to get your ready graduate indicators. And the state will, and I think I can speak for them, they'll never make 100% where every student, 100% of them have to have an EPSO, because that's not realistic. And it's not realistic for us to pressure them into taking a dual enrollment class that they don't need or may not want.
Can I ask a question here? I know this is all a learning curve, is how we implement the Bartleby program. And I have a little bit of concerns too, is I like the word offer instead of require. How does it affect any of the current, do we still have dual enrollment classes that we offer? Because I know my girls took them and I paid for them. I mean, it was something that I paid for, and I know they came to the school and they told them, and I know my girls went to Northeast State and took them, and I paid for them. So I don't know how that kind of effect that's going to have, and I just feel like for us, if we're paying for it, then I feel like, well, if Bartleby's is part of their requirement, then why are we paying for it? You see what I'm saying? I feel like if it's a requirement, it's part of our the money that we're getting from HQ, and they're requiring it, making it part of the contract, is why are we paying for it? And instead of the Bartleby funds not paying for it. And, and I'm kind of concerned a little bit about we should offer, I mean, a lot of dual enrollment classes are offering, it's voluntary, and the kids take it, and we pay for it. And I think it'll be a good course. I think it'd be good for the students that want to take it. But if you require a kid to take a class that they're not 100% vested in, then I don't know how much they'll get out of it. I guess is what I'm thinking. I like the word offer as opposed to require, but now, I don't know all the details of our requirements. I've read the contract and know we're obligated to do several things, but, you know, if they're paying for it, you know, it's a little different story. You know, but if the school system's paying for it, and then the other dual enrollment classes that we do offer, the parents are paying for it. You know, if it Northeast State or some of the other, because I mean, that's what it was in the past. That may have changed.
The dual enrollment grant, you basically get 2 classes in high school for free. Then if you take any more than that, you have to pay for it.
Well, I can remember paying somebody, but I remember the Hope Scholarship paid for a little bit of it. But they kind of took it off of it when they went on to
It's something that they need to look as well. You know, I think you'll see a lot of dual enrollment, unfortunately, go down. The 2 classes, because once you graduate and start, if you start at a community college, Tennessee Promise covers tuition. So, you know, I don't like paying for classes that my kid will get free the next year. So that's why I don't like the idea of requiring them to take a dual enrollment class when it's going to be free. Yes, I think it should be offered. I'm all for it. Any dual enrollment class we can offer, I'm all for it. And I understand the state's looking at EPSOs and stuff like that, but to make it required, that does not sit well with me. I don't think we have the right to do that.
I'm going to talk just a minute on some of the thought processes behind this class. One of the things that we are having the opportunity to do with XQ is to rethink high school, and that's what that whole proposal started. And so we're on this cutting edge of an opportunity of trying some new things and some different things. The class that we're looking at, this dual enrollment class, is all soft skills. These are all things that, and I asked Dr. Gardenauer if we had a copy of what the class was going to be. These things aren't specific to college. They're not specific to a 2-year or 4-year, a technical. It's life. They're life skills. And there's things like implement skills to increase career performance, increase appreciation of his or her capabilities, styles of approaching the student's world and their attitudes about, basically it's like doing inventories, assessments, finding out where your strengths are. Also understanding things like how to conduct a job search, understanding your skills and behaviors needed to participate in interview settings. There's talking about social media presence and not ruining your career when you're 15, mental and health awareness. So it's more life things. And we went back and forth on, we've talked different things about making a required class. When I was in high school, I was one of those students who would not take a dual enrollment class because I had a lot of self-confidence in like talking to people, but I wasn't very confident in the classroom. And I went to ETSU straight from Elizabethton, and I sat in a class, and I remember we were required to take things like it was your freshman kind of career, college orientation. I forget what it was called. And I needed that class before I got there, because by the time I was trying to take it in college, I was taking 5 other classes, trying to figure out all the stuff. And something like this on the front end in high school, when I went surrounded by my friends in an environment I'm comfortable in, would have been very helpful to kind of get a feel for college still sitting in my high school classroom. I also think about, because again, like you talked about your daughters took dual enrollment, I was afraid to try it. And I think for some students, their first generation college there would be first generation college, their family has never gone to college, and it's a scary and daunting thing, and I don't think some students see themselves as capable. And I think that a class like this where we said, we think you are capable. This morning I was thinking about Perry Elliott in the band. And Perry Elliott, I would imagine that when the band season starts, when he hands out the music and says what it's going to be, if I was a band student, I would look at that going, we can never do this. This is hard. This is complicated. We're not going to do this. And he believes in them and he pushes them, and we watch them every November on the state stage walking off with tons of confidence because they did something they didn't think they could do. So this was just an attempt to give every student an opportunity. It said, you may not think you can do this, but we think you can. And these are, there's just more soft skills or more life skills, and it's things that we think students know how to do, but a lot of them don't. And if they had the choice, a lot of them wouldn't take it. And I think these are things that it just would benefit them in life. It's not going to, it'll help them in college, sure, it'll help them at a 2-year or 4-year, a technical, military, being a spouse, having an apartment, paying bills. But we all know that, if you do any kind of interviewing, some students don't even know how to do a handshake. They don't know how to ask for things. And so these are just some things that with the Cyclone experience, it's kind of a follow-up. We start off with the Cyclone experience. We want them to learn certain things. This class sort of follows up on that, but we're just getting them ready for what's next. And it's not Milligan specific, it's just life specific. So that was the thought process behind it. Because we know a lot of students leave early, and some of them actually have internships, some of them don't. They're done for the day, and they're off doing things, and that's fine, but spending an extra hour, in a classroom for something that might benefit you was kind of part of where we were thinking with that. And I don't know if I'm forgetting things.
I want to address one thing I did hear too, is the board doesn't have the right. We do actually have the responsibility to set graduation requirements. It's one of our duties, and we have to follow state law in doing curriculum, but we depend heavily on our curriculum committee to help do this. And in this case, and I remembered that part of the discussion, I didn't know those things at the time. It would have been nice to know those things at the time, because you made a lot of sense on a lot of those points about how it could alter, and I feel like the term offer, but at the same time, this is all tied up into larger things that we were trying to do, and by larger I mean, we were looking at kind of an overview of the whole school and not independent. I'm glad that you looked at those things and actually thought through them during the thought process before you recommended it to us. I'm glad that you said, there's going to be some students that are left out of that. But we do have to come up with those. I was trying to pull our policy on graduation requirements. I know we have them. I remember looking at them. I don't know what they all are, but I know you have to have so many of these and so many of those. I think one of the things here is there's not an alternative. So it's either this or there isn't another option if it doesn't apply to you. Now that said, we have a commitment and to make people college and career ready. It's not college or career ready. It's college and career ready, because most of our kids don't come out the door ready to know what they want to do. And yours is good that they want to do criminal justice and they're going down that line and all that. And I think that we've shown that too many kids are thinking college is the panacea of the job market, and we're finding out now that we're not, which is why we've invested way more into CTE programs and project-based learning and things, because our real skills out there are going to be those things. What I liked about this is they are soft skills that you can use. Their time management, their interpersonal growth, their relationships, and I think it's important to say that those are important. They're like the Cyclone experience. Those are important things that will make you successful, whether you be in criminal justice or go to college. I think the fact that it's a dual enrollment makes it appear as if this is geared for those just going to college, but at the same time, it would be nice if we had the forethought to think of how could we make it so it doesn't have that impact, such that people are knocked out of music programs or other things like that are of interest, and find ways to have alternate times or things of that nature. And maybe that's still a doable thing. Right now it looks to me like our hands are tied because we have a contractual obligation we've already agreed to, voted in, so I don't know how to get around that. Perhaps you could research some things for us to do to get around that requirement. Maybe exceptions, maybe XQ lets you have exceptions if we ask them or something. But I don't know that we want to do exceptions long term. We may want to make it where you can do this and that, because I do think these are good life skills to teach our kids, and we're getting, quite honestly, quite a bargain to be able to do it. They're not having to pay. What everybody was saying was, my kids went and they took these dual enrollment, they had to pay for them. Well, now they don't have to pay for them because this is through the system, and hopefully it would be something that we would waive and go away if XQ comes to the table, which they have. which is one reason it got our attention, I think. I'm not saying it's about money, but, I mean, we're sitting here looking at the budget and the 5-year plan and wanting to do stuff at T.A. Duggar, and it depends on having funds available. And we're talking, you know, yeah, we can do an SRO, but we can also get, you know, millions of dollars through something else. There's a lot of SROs if you, you know, if you could use that money somewhere else. And at the end of the day, make our kids better prepared for the workforce to be, you know, citizens who contribute to our community in some form or fashion, and hopefully find that they have opportunity. So leaving them open up for that. I am sympathetic to a lot of the things you said. My children were in band as well. They weren't so focused to know what they wanted to do, though. And so mine were kind of the opposite. They were like, well, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to college, or I'm going to go do that. And they really didn't know. And I think that's somewhere where we fall down, is helping them find out what it is that they want to do. And they were still going by what they took some survey in the 8th grade, you know, and then they're in college and they're changing majors 3 times, but, you know, and somebody else may be changing the job force. So I don't know how we get around that concept. This probably doesn't get there, but that was my thought as to when I was thinking about why we did the class at the beginning. To me, it seemed like a good idea on the surface. The details, the devil's always in the details, aren't they, Dean?
That's true, and the way that it's written, I don't take it. It says Elizabethton High School will utilize the Bartleby Senior Capstone concepts in its 12th grade core academic course to ensure that all 12th grade students will further develop their ability to successfully integrate core academic subjects with life concepts in the process, motivate students to refine their skills, and ensure they're prepared for both college and life. There's no mention of a dual enrollment class or with Milligan. And you know, we're already requiring them, the one above it, they're required to take a Cyclone Experience course, which is 1 elective. Now we're adding 2 electives to this. Again, you want to pick which class my son can't take because he's got to take a dual enrollment class that he doesn't need. That's the issue. And and Phil, to answer your question, why Bartleby won't fund it, public schools non-religion recipient entity represents the warrants that does not propose and shall not use any part of the grant funds to implement a private school, a school with religious affiliation, or a for-profit school. So I don't think we're allowed to use it for that because Milligan is a private faith-based school.
But I think it's a good opportunity for senior kids to get this,
Yep.
and if we're paying for it, I mean, if I was a parent, I would encourage my senior child to take the class.
Mr. Colbert,
I wish, you know, especially.
do we not offer some of these
have this
skills
class, but,
in,
you know,
in CTE classes, the interview skills?
To offer soft skills in every CTE class, which is why career exploration, which we've chosen to call Cyclone Experience, offers soft skills.
But that's as freshmen, or?
The career exploration class is what we call Cyclone Experience, and this year we call it Bartleby Cyclone Experience, but it's still career exploration, which is one of the main things in it. It's supposed to be soft skills. And CTE classes in general, there's always some standards in there that refer back to soft skills.
So we're hitting them twice with a credit that's taken up their electives, and I don't think that's right for our students.
Okay. What I would say is, you know, we will look at, we have a contractual obligation.
I don't think so, the way the contract reads. It doesn't say required. It doesn't mention.
But you also have not been part of the conversations.
Well, nobody has, because it's not really been, you know, Dr. May asked you what were our requirements, and it was basically, we got to do a few reports and stuff like that. You know, no money, no required classes for students.
When we looked at the contract and we sat down with XQ to formulate the fact that they felt comfortable that we are going to do it due diligence wise, we have had conference calls with them. This has been a process that they've been apprised of, that we've worked with them with to get approval for those metrics. The money does not come without metrics, and they have to feel that that fits what we have and that we're completing those metrics in order to fulfill our obligation. And so while you're coming in kind of on the end of the year 1 process, we're still having to meet the metrics. I mean, we're working very hard, and in order to meet year 2, and what we're looking at in year 2 that's part of, you know, what, and I'll explain that some tonight. Year 2 is going to be, the focus will be around teachers. We know that we have to build capacity in teachers to be able to do that, and that's sending them places to be able to see it done well, project-based learning done well. It's that, and so in my opinion, we have an obligation to meet. We have chosen this path, and the reason we spent a lot of time on it was that the board approved us do that and had full knowledge at that time of what we were doing, what the course that we were putting together, that we were working with Milligan. Those things were a part of that process. It was not ever behind closed doors or.
So let me just clarify. You're basically saying we have to meet metrics, which we have to have students in classes. So we're forcing our students to take these classes just to meet numbers to get money for Bartleby. Is that what you're saying in a roundabout term?
What I am saying is, we, in order to meet our metrics for
What metrics, and you're talking about enrollment, right?
Enrollment for
In
what?
classes, Bartleby classes. That's part of the metrics.
I mean, I think that is part of it. If we do not have students in the courses, how can we say that we're meeting the metric?
Well, but how you get students in courses, you sell it and you show the good points. You don't force them to take classes. I mean, there's good things, and that's why we need to be pushing, not forcing them to take a class that they don't want or they don't need.
Do we have any, I know that you mentioned earlier, what are our contingencies? Because obviously there's some students, you know, I know that, that's been talked about, that we, you know, this would not.
We have kids right now that would not have room in their schedule. I mean, we know that. We know that we have certain students that are in trouble that would not graduate. That would be something we look at. We have certain populations of students that we would have that would not be able to.
Well, let's just say that there's a student that has just kind of what Mr. O'Quinn's talking about, that they just don't have it in their schedule, or they've taken a lot of other dual enrollment things. I mean, is there some things where we could, and I don't want to water this down, but an option for
exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, like with.
Well, what we
Mr.
decided as a
Bogan's-
team was the principal would make that decision. We would allow the principal to make a decision based on those things. We felt that was a good, we felt that was a good thing. We felt that we would give him that opportunity to do that. So we wanted to say mandatory because we would want to have as many students experiencing this, knowing what they need. And the problem with this type of stuff is they have to have it before they go to college. Our dropout rate for our kids is extremely high.
I'm very well aware of that.
Yeah. And so we felt that if they get to college and they're taking the same course, which most colleges offer, that it was not doing them any good. They were not keyed into personal time management. They were not keyed into being able to interview for scholarships and do those types of things, that we really needed to spend time with them prior to them leaving us to be able to do those things.
And I understand that, especially if your student's a junior and this just kind of comes up right here at their senior year.
Mhm.
And I understand that that would be a
could be an
problem.
exception.
And I think maybe we look at, there are some exceptional cases, and maybe we can put some clarification on if you meet, there's some things that it needs to be the exception, not the rule. Because you bring up some excellent points. And so I think maybe we put some things in place that the principal isn't overwhelmed with, just like, I don't want to take it. But I think maybe we could go back and put some specific scenarios in mind that, if you are doing an internship somewhere else, then maybe, but not just like I'm going to work at somewhere because I worked there for 5 years or 2 years and I just want to, go
I think
get
the
some extra
guidance
hours.
would be, at least from me, would be to make it so that if you're going to require it, if it's going to be mandatory, which I think we said we were at some point, we may revisit that next year, but if you're going to allow exceptions, that the exceptions be that they've already had that in some form or fashion, because we're really talking about the content we think they should meet. And I think I differ with Danny on this one, is that I do think it is our responsibility to say this is required and this is not. We say it about things. We rubber stamp what the state tells us, but that doesn't hold us to being the minimum standards. I want this school system to be better than the state of Tennessee, not just what the state of Tennessee says we should be. And I do think we have a requirement to do certain classwork that's not elective, but it's only elective if we say it's elective. That's my belief. So I think it's not elective, it's mandatory because we feel this is strongly important. I do think that this is an important class. So I don't want to mitigate it or water it down, but at the same time, I also hear your arguments and understand it, and I can really feel sympathetic because you're it wasn't his plan through 4 years. So maybe in this transition time, Bartleby can understand we have some students trapped in a transition period. We're aiming that direction, and maybe we take away the cyclone experience and make it something different, or if you need more time, or maybe we take this one away. I don't know. That's something I think you guys could explore as educators, licensed educators. And I know since I'm not, and the two of you are, and, you know, and no, you're not, are you?
I'm not.
So the three of you are. So 3 out of the 6 of us sitting up here are licensed educators who spent your life studying this sort of thing. I defer to you a lot on those types of things, but I also defer to the ones out there that are here as well. Trust that they would really think through what's mandatory and why, and you know, I would listen a lot to your arguments about why it would be mandatory. But as a parent, I do see some really value whether they go to college or not. And I think the dropout rate's what worries me the most, is because I think a lot of them get there and they don't know how to study. I've been frustrated with this for years for our current classes, and I kind of thought this was a way to address it. Was they get to college and they're blown away. Even our dual enrollment programs are like high school classes, and then they get there. And in fact, I think they do a disservice in one way, is that they're slightly easier if you take them in high school. Then they get to college, and the only thing they have left are the hard ones. I know my son, he had like 30-some hours of dual enrollment. He got there, and he's taking calculus, physics, and chemistry, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And he doesn't have the study skills, and he's having to go back and like really get into it because their homework requirements and their, you know, their hand-holding was much greater in high school. People were holding their hand and incentivizing them to get it done in a different manner than it was when it's like, I don't care if you come to class or not. You know, that was a different expectation for him, and he's adapted, but I saw the struggle that maybe if he had had a few easy ones in the first few years that he hadn't already taken. But he walked in there thinking, I'm great, I've done all these, and then he's like, oh yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure there's a good balance, but we got to find that balance as a board.
Well, I think there needs to be a transitional period the first few years, because if you got a freshman coming in next year knowing that when they're a senior, they're going to have to take this class, then they can prepare themselves and we can get them ready to take that, and hopefully they'll be wanting to take the class.
I do think we need to get as many people in there as possible, because the state mandates all the time that we have to do all this stuff, whether it's we know it's in our best interest or not. And this is one of those rare times when we're saying we're looking at our county, we're looking at how few people go into any kind of secondary education, and we would like to say we think you can do it, and we're giving you a safe space to try it.
And as much as we say elective, you know, that, like, I think you have an exceptional child who knows what they want to do, and they want their elective.
But one who still doesn't know to get ready to graduate. So.
They want their elective because it leads to something they want to do, and that's where an exception can be made, maybe. But I think for a vast majority, at least when I was there, the electives were the time they were like, I'm going to find the easiest thing I can do. And you're shaking your head yes.
Oh,
that's how
Melena's over there going, I've already looked at where I'm taking in college.
So this is my easy class. So to me, I don't know that we're impairing many of those that are so directed that they're just loving something they've already picked. In fact, I think that's probably why I'm saying I do think we should make it mandatory, is because we really have a large number that are coming out going, I don't know what I want to do, and this may be a route to helping them. And maybe I'm putting too much on that class, but and maybe we open it up to other universities who want to do it, and just say it doesn't have to be Milligan. It can be whoever wants to provide it. but y'all have to do that before next year. We can't do it this year, but next year maybe anybody can do it. Milligan's being nice to do it, I think, but.
I think we should, I know that the contingency's always been there, that the principal can make that decision. I think that we, rather than just dumping it on the principal and just saying, you know, good luck, that we put some, you know, parameters in there. But we don't want to punish a student who wants to take something else. So I think that for the most kids, I don't think it would probably be an issue. But for those that are, I think we put in place something that it can be, you know, an appeal to the principal that there's just no room in my child's schedule. We're getting ready to graduate and they want to take this, or they've got this internship, and because we want this to be a positive experience. And for most kids, I think it's going to be. I think there's some kids who aren't going to want to do it just because they don't think they can, and those are the kids I want to say, we think you can. So
let's go back. What do you all think are some of the metrics we should consider? I know Danny's brought some, but
I think you have to look at the fact that, I mean, obviously, my two are there still. It's an unbelievable institution. But I do worry about the faith-based, and a requirement of faith-based in an unusual case where someone may say they want nothing to do with a faith-based school, and yet I'm having to. So I think you have to consider religious or non-religious or whatever reason would be one that just may save you some issues down the road.
What else?
I think if they have an obvious career internship or something like that, career that's going towards something that they're showing clear evidence of working toward, like this where he's talking about a criminal justice, like an internship that's a very clear, I'm working toward something that I already have that goal. And I think that they have to have had some of the soft skills already developed at some point. And so, you know, Mr. Colbert mentioned that.
And but we're still talking about calling this mandatory, but we're talking about exceptions to the term mandatory.
Yes.
So what's I guess, and I've not been on the background of this, so is the terminology going to be a contract? Is it because it's a contract issue in the terminology, or is it?
I think that we're far better saying that we're providing that course to seniors and then have exceptions than. Do you understand where I am? I mean, we've signed a contract
I understand.
that we have to offer that. So that's a metric we have to meet. So I think if we work with them, they would say, all right, we have some kids that have some exceptions. They have, you know, this or that. And I think that if we're offering and doing a good due diligence on it, saying, yeah, we have a great number of students in it, we're providing it, it's something that we feel is beneficial. We do have some students, and I think that they would understand that we do have some students that don't have room in their schedule. That when I say room, they've taken algebra twice, and maybe we're going to be on time number 3. I don't know, but at the same time, you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's why I know it's odd. The terminology's hard. So essentially, you're having something that's mandatory, but it's not. But you don't want to say it's not, because then you worry about participation.
That's correct.
But again, I don't know. I don't know if you're more interested in the terminology or if you're interested in the fact that it may not work out for kids, and do they have that option, you know, to opt out? And I would not want to be Mr. Boatman necessarily making,
well, that's why we're trying,
you know, those decisions too. So, you know.
Well, Mr. Campbell, you know about this. There's a special history class that is offered for very few students next year through a Bartleby local. Mr. Boatman, you know what I'm talking about? The what? No, it's something that just a few kids were picked to I don't know, maybe my son was, but he was chosen, he was asked to take that class, which, again, I thought it was, he said it was a Bartleby class. It was a local history class or something.
Was it just a fourth period elective maybe that was archiving and local?
Yeah, that's it.
That's a fourth period original elective. That's not necessarily a Bartleby class.
Okay, he didn't know. I'm just saying that he'd be able to take that, and if he's mandatory, he can't. There's just a lot of things that I don't think we need to.
Alex, can you,
Alex?
you're our new interim
Yeah.
XQ director. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the class? Because you've been quiet down there.
Yeah, actually, I don't do anything. But I do appreciate it because myself has had one over the last 2 weeks. And so I've tried to gather some information on the curriculum. Of course, do you guys have the curriculum of the class? I didn't either. So
I don't.
I have that, so now at least everybody can know. I don't know that earlier. So there's actually the syllabus that was created between our teachers.
It is not completed, I've been
Yeah, this
told.
is still in work, okay? So, but this is between our teachers and Milligan teachers, I believe, kind of put this together. And I've been looking over that as well. Okay. But anyway, so there it is, and it has all those topics, and so you guys can at least maybe peruse that for the next board meeting, or whatever you want to do. So there's that. I also went and looked up some information on the benefits of having just one college class, and then I looked at some averages for our county and our state. And so I put together a little sheet where you could compare our county, maybe the state, maybe the nation. That may help us there. And I did find some data I thought was,
It's okay.
I did find some information that really just boggled my mind. And that is that if a kid just takes one college class, the national average is they increase their yearly earnings by $9,000. So I mean that's pretty big to kids. Over a 40-year career, it'd be $360,000, and for each class of seniors, it would be $72 million over their lives. So I hear what Ms. Boer was saying, that there's a lot of kids that don't really have maybe an opportunity. So as many kids as maybe we could offer it to and get them in the class, I think it'd be very helpful. So anyway, there's some data on that. Citydata.com, smartasset.com is where I got that information. So that's another one I guess you guys could look at that might help you make your decision. I don't pretend to know everything. I have been on the job 2 weeks, but and maybe there's a question that maybe I could answer. And if not, I'll try to get an answer.
I guess I was just wondering about your, mandatory versus exceptions, and what would the exceptions be if we made some exceptions? And I think that, at least it's been my perception, that our board was unified on this particular program, because we feel like, at least I can speak for me, but I thought we were all unified that the Bartleby program was doing great. It's bringing a lot of good things to our system, and it has its value to us, and it's not just financial, but I do think that we have certain things we got to do in order to get that. And so, I want to continue to support it, and I think it's part of everything else, but I just wonder if there are exceptions. We don't want to blow up the contract. I don't want to blow up the contract.
Yeah. I heard, and Mr. Quinn brought up some good things, and so just in my head, I thought of maybe some possible options that maybe you guys would want to jot down. And you guys mentioned if maybe they had an internship already where they were getting those soft skills and things, that might be a good exception. Maybe if they had so many other EPSOs. I think the whole point is to give these kids a chance to take a college class before college. Some kids have 5 or 10, some don't take any. So maybe if they have, I don't know if you want one class, or maybe you'd want to say 2 or 3 classes or something for EPSOs. Maybe that could create an exemption because they would already have a lot of those skills, and maybe that would probably fill up their schedule too, maybe. The third one I thought about was some type of band thing, which you mentioned, and that is a lot of, I taught AP for years, and those band students really have a lot of obligations there. You mentioned failures, if a kid did not have room in their schedule because of a failure. We also mentioned kind of IEP, special ed issues. And So I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 things that maybe you guys may want to think about as possible exemptions. I think those, and I might have missed some, but those are the 5 that came to my mind, and some of y'all mentioned those. And I think the other thing that was interesting was maybe a transition to where you try to get as many kids as possible. I mean, it is true, if you do say it's just a new class, you'll have 15 kids take it. And you'll probably have the kids take it that don't really need it. The one whose parents can afford an EPSOS, or maybe their parents went to college. So I think you may miss a lot of kids that really need it. And $72 million per class of students is what you miss out on in a career at $9,000 extra a year. So I would want to catch as many of those kids, I think, as possible, maybe over a transition period, but maybe offer a lot of those maybe exceptions or something. Maybe that's a good option.
That's good. I'd like to hear from Mr. Boatman, too. You're the one who they're going to come to for exceptions. What have you thought of just hearing our discussion? Good point. Very good point.
I think the options that you're just going to outline are things we've already discussed to a certain extent. And it's similar with cycling experience right now. We say that that's a freshman requirement, but if the kid needs to be in RTI because they're behind in reading and math, and we pull them from cycling experience to prove RTI.
Right.
I think this would be really done the same way. It would need to be measured individually by case-by-case basis. Obviously, with the common sense.
Thank you.
I know the first time you try anything, you know, it's met. One of the things that I've appreciated so much about where we are with Bartleby and everything is because this was student-led. Because if it was up to us, we're we're not as brave as our kids are, and kids are brave, and they want to. And so they want to do everything. And so when we're asking them, how do you want to learn, and they tell us, then we should listen. And so these are just things that we're just following up on things that they wanted. But we don't want to punish anybody. We want this to be a positive thing. And so I think putting in, some very specific case-by-case issues in place, because we want every student to have a great experience, and we don't want to cost anybody anything, especially for our upperclassmen. So I think that, and again, you said the magic word, which was common sense, and we implement that. But we want students, because I think any student is capable of passing this course, and I think they're going to have a little extra bit of confidence, because it's like, hey, I have some college credit, and whether they use it or not, it's always nice, to do something that you never thought you were capable of doing, and we think they are.
Ms. Boer, I did look at a couple things. I wasn't there for the development of the course, but just looking into it, I think one of the things was that Milligan is ranked the #2 school in the state by U.S. News and World Report after Vanderbilt. I think that looks really good on a kid's resume, that they can say they graduated from the #2 school in the state. Another thing that I saw in there was that they wanted to get the kids on the college campus. It's kind of like this transition. That's such a shock. I remember when I went to ETSU, that's such a big campus from Hampton High School. So I think there was a thought that they would get on campus maybe a couple of times a month. And so having a college that was really close to us like Milligan gives them a better opportunity. So maybe that had something to do with it as well. And I did find a couple of the pieces of data, which I don't know if I got on that sheet or not. Our net graduation indicator is about 40%. I don't like to make 40% on anything. I think if we could use this course in any way to boost that, that would be really good. So hopefully there's a way to do that. And also, I found that 60% of our students drop out of post-secondary in the first semester, and 70% will never graduate. So anything we can do, I think, to build the K-16 kind of idea, instead of You know, we got them through K-12, and now that's kind of not our responsibility anymore. If that can help bridge that gap, I think that would be great. Only 20% of Elizabethton residents own a post-secondary degree, and our students actually have a greater chance of being unemployed than earning a graduate degree. Unemployment rate was 8.4%, graduate degrees were 7.9%, and our county students have a greater chance of living in poverty than actually getting a college diploma. We have 22.4% in poverty and only 20.1% with any type of post-secondary diploma. So I think anything we can do to lift our county, we should try it, and if we can find an equitable way to make it fit with a lot of those different students, and you maybe use some of those exemptions, we should try to get as many kids as possible. One thing that I've been able to do is travel a lot in the last couple of years and see a lot of different schools, and my gosh, our kids do not have some of the opportunities. I was just in New York City. I've been to San Francisco, been to LA, I'm going to San Diego next week. And I want our kids to have the same opportunities that any other kid has. It's not their fault what their zip code was when they were born. So anything we can do to give it to them and be fair, you know, I think we should try. So anyway, there's some information for you guys. Hopefully it'll help you make a good decision on that. And if you have any questions, if I don't know them, I'll try to find them and try to help you. Is there any more questions? Or if you think of any, you can email me or call me, and I'll try to dig it up if I can.
Thanks.
I think this is just discussion. I know, I mean, it's not a vote item or anything, but I'm really heartened by the conversation. I mean, this has been awesome to see it from all sides. I like this side of school board where we can sit around and kick it around and see what, because that's what a board does, is we function by talking about it from different angles and providing that guidance so that you all can make the best decisions, and leaning heavily on you. So I hope it's helpful to kind of get those things, but I really enjoyed that conversation as much as it seems like it. Sometimes it's like there's all different aspects, but that's what makes a board functional, really. So thank you all as my fellow board members for kind of kicking it around from all different aspects. So.
Anything else?
All right.
Do what now?
The question is, registration is obviously going on now, and I guess they need some guidance on how to move forward.
I think what we'll do is sit down like we have during the whole process, look at the exceptions that we're going to offer, then start looking at students on a case-by-case basis.
Well, yeah, I don't want to jeopardize anything, because I think the Bartleby thing and what we're trying to do, and like Rita said, the kids is the one that initiated this whole thing. It wasn't us. It was our children that got out and initiated this, and at the time, you know, it was a. Now looking back at it, it was kind of a small thing, because it has, you know, really rolled downhill. It's really picking up steam, and Terry Smith really took it and ran with it. I mean, he took this concept, and he took what those kids had done on their own with the help of some few teachers and stuff, and he took it and really ran with it and got us to this point. So we don't want to jeopardize, you know, the program, but I think there needs to be some options or some understanding of a transitional period. You know, we just don't want to throw this at senior kids, you know, when they're getting ready to graduate. Like I say, if there's some kind of way we can work with Bartleby or have some discussion with them as a transitioning period, like I say, when they come in as freshmen next year, knowing that when they're a senior, they're going to take this class. And I think it's a good class. And but I think we just need to be kind of careful how we transition into this new program and how we try to help our children.
I agree. I think we need to expand it, not just focus it on one class. We need to expand it to CTE classes where these kids who know what they're going to do, they want a career in technical field, they have the opportunity to do the same thing, get dual credit at schools, but not just one school, one area. We need to look at all of our students, not just the ones.
So we got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So this is step one, and we're going to figure, and I'm guessing you're going to have those meetings very soon.
Yeah.
Yes. So that'll happen like now, and but I think that we proceed with having as many students in this class, with exceptions, because we don't want to hurt anybody. We want everything to go really well, and these are the growing pains that And this is kind of what XQ is about, is there are 19 schools that are out here trying to figure this out. And we're going to make mistakes, but we don't want to hurt the kids, but we want to stay true to what we believe is going to help. And so that's what this is tonight. It's like, okay, you brought up excellent points, so we now have a thing in place. I hope in 5 years, this is, just like you said, I hope it's huge and it just, but we got to start with one because we can't make it so big. And that was the thing, I think part of the partnership with Milligan is because it is right next door, it's a smaller school, and we were able to kind of have those conversations.
And they are our primary partner.
Yeah, they were,
for the
yes.
state,
Yep.
so.
Okay, so we got a lot to do on that. You will keep us apprised. We're getting ready to do our, we got one more thing to do, but I'm going to adjourn, well, I will say the next regular scheduled board meeting will be Tuesday, April 16th here at 6:30. We're going to take a 10-minute break and then we're going to reconvene for part 3. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
That's second, thank you.
Third.